Here with reaction, former senior advisor to the Clintons, pollster Mark Penn, Fox News contributor R.A. Fleischer, and the host of Outkick's Tomi Lahren is fearless. Tomi Lahren is with us. Tomi, I know, I guess these polls, you know, think about this. All these polls are coming out while Donald Trump is on trial every day, and it's getting wall-to-wall coverage on some networks. And think about that. Every time they've arrested him, arraigned him, took a mugshot, it just backfires, and his poll numbers go up. And the more times Joe goes out and speaks, and he's had the entire playing field to himself in terms of campaigning, well, he's not helping himself. Your reaction?
Well, I'll tell you this. I would expect Donald Trump to be more ahead than he is right now, considering Joe Biden's record, his inability to not only lead, but his inability to communicate or even stand on his own. So I'm sorry, but I'm not as happy about the lead in the polls as maybe some are, because I think the lead should be far greater. That also tells me the fact that the Democrats have yet to replace Joe Biden. I still think they will, that they are very confident in their voting strategy. They're very confident in the mechanics of their voting, getting out the vote, mail-in votes, ballot harvesting. They're very confident in their operation. So that concerns me. But I'll also say this, when it comes to these young people and what they're doing on these college campuses, I know it seems like it's a handful of misfits, and they might very well be in the minority now. But Sean, the future generations are not becoming any less communist, any less pro-terror, anti-white, anti-freedom, anti-America. We've got generations coming up through our school system who are going to make the protests now look small in comparison to what they could be in 5 or 10 years. This is a lasting problem for the conservative movement, for the GOP, for the United States in general. The GOP has failed to get involved in the education system. We have failed to get involved at the local level and our school boards and our city councils. And so I fear that this isn't just a 200-day problem until the next election. This is a 20-year problem. Long after Joe Biden and Donald Trump are gone, we're going to have to contend with this younger voting bloc. So we better start now, because it's not enough to just scoff at them. They might not vote for Joe in November, but boy, I don't know if they're going to be voting for Republicans anytime soon. We've got to face that reality.
Well, they've been indoctrinated, you know, in these, quote, institutions of higher learning. Mark Penn, let me throw this to you. We have the leader of the free world now is basically incapable of leading, and he's abdicated America's role on the world stage. And frankly, he's stabbing, you know, he's surrendered in the war on terrorism, stabbing our ally Israel in the back in the process. And these protests, you cannot tell me in any way politically help Joe Biden.
Well, no, they're not. They're not helping even the cause that they're protesting for, because most Americans look at these protests. They don't see any American flags there. They see quite the opposite, that they seem to be anti-American, anti-Israel, some of them even pro-Hamas. And it's really backfiring. There's been no change in American support for Israel and for getting the hostages out and for getting Hamas out of Gaza. And that has not changed, even though these things have gone on. But the more Joe Biden caters to the base of the party and to these demonstrators, his rating on this issue goes down, not up. I think he's made a major miscalculation there. The swing voters are looking for world leadership, and that means standing up to terrorists. That means hanging tough. That means solving some of these problems in the Mideast, and they don't see that yet. Now, look, a lot can happen, but that is not what the American voters are seeing today, and you're seeing these polls that were closing going the other way now and widening. And let me just make one last point. The biggest reason they're widening is that Joe Biden has a 44% job approval, and Donald Trump, when asked about his presidency, has a 55% job approval. Joe Biden has to close that gap, or it's going to be a tough race.
You know, Ari, you look at the numbers and, all right, here's America's population, here's Israel's population. It would be the equivalent, based on population comparisons, extrapolated out, of 8,000 Americans taken hostage out of U.S. Territory, 40,000 dead Americans in a single day. And all Joe Biden has been doing is lecturing Israel on how they should fight this war, how they need peace talks, how they need a ceasefire, now stabbing Prime Minister Netanyahu in the back, maybe using the Leahy law as a means of not even giving the IDF any military aid or support at all. But meanwhile, they just keep sending, $100 billion plus over to Ukraine. And it's not just Joe, it's Schumer, it's Pelosi. And I would say it's all rooted in the fact that he wants every one of these votes. Your thoughts?
I think you have to give Joe Biden credit, actually, Sean, credit for always consistently being wrong on foreign policy. I mean, go back to when he was a young senator and he opposed Ronald Reagan on missile defense, the same missile defense that just stopped Iran. He was against the very successful and popular first Gulf War. He was for the unsuccessful second Gulf War. He wanted to divide Iraq into 3 pieces. That would have been a flop. And now when it comes to Israel and Gaza, he's all over the map. The Wall Street Journal said the 2-state solution for Joe Biden is Michigan and Nevada. Every decision he's making to put pressure on Israel, to put pressure on Netanyahu, is all geared toward winning an election, not alienating Arab voters and the young people on campuses. But the problem he's got is he can't occupy a middle ground. This is the flaw in his judgment. You either have to, like George Bush said, you're with us or against us in this war now in Gaza. And he is abandoning Israel. He's walked away from Israel. He only pressures Israel. And he won't get the Arab vote. They're going to stay home in substantial numbers. And he's going to lose. No, he won't lose, but he's going to have huge inroads made by Republicans into the Jewish vote, another historical Democrat constituency. Everything he does, he has a reverse Midas touch. He messes up every foreign policy issue he's ever been involved in.
You're right. And if peace and prosperity, which historically have driven elections, if that remains the pattern, Joe Biden will lose in November. If these numbers hold that we're seeing across the board, I don't see how we can come back. But we have 189 days to go. Anything can happen. Thank you all. Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.